Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, how are you?
Sonia.
My computer going here.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Do we expect Steve, right?
I'm not sure. I don't think we responded in the emails.
Okay. Well, why don't we get started and open the meeting and then hope that he shows or we find out later. So this is a remote meeting of the Rights of Public Access Committee on January 12th, 2022. It's held remotely with a meeting link, a Zoom meeting link on the town's calendar page and can be joined through that link. You can also phone in at 1-929-205-6099. I'll call the meeting to order. I'm Barbara Carboni, the newest member of the committee and the chair for this meeting. Can the other members present identify themselves?
John Reel.
Sonia Woodman.
Melissa, yeah.
Great, and I see we have Nancy here as well. Hi, Nancy. Nancy Savetta.
Hi, everybody.
So the first item on the agenda is to review the agenda. We have a few topics that are carried over from the last meeting. I also put on the meeting agenda a space holder for public comment, which I know that the select board does and a lot of other boards do as well. So I just thought I would throw that in there. It's a time for any member of the public to raise a topic or a question that the committee would address at a future meeting. So I don't see any members of the public who might want to comment, but I think it's a good idea to have that item on the agenda. So does anyone have any comments on the agenda itself?
Just the minutes.
Right.
It's that, yeah, I think the date for the minutes to be approved was incorrect.
Correct. Yes, thank you. You did point that out to me, Sonia. Thank you. So I had put on the agenda that the minutes are from December 11th, when in fact they are on, the meeting was on December 7th, and the correct date is in the meeting minutes themselves. I would feel comfortable voting on approving the minutes, even though the date was wrong in the calendar on the agenda. But of course, if anyone would rather wait until the next meeting to vote on them, I think that's what we should do. I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable about that.
Yeah, I
Does
think I'm
anyone-
fine with that.
Fine with it.
Yeah. Did
John?
anyone have any revisions, anything? I know I didn't get any responses. I know they kind of came in late. I haven't had a whole lot of free time lately, but
No, they were very thorough. Thank you,
Okay.
Sonia, for putting these together. So I didn't have any comments on them.
okay. So should we, I move to approve the minutes from December 7th,
Second.
2021.
Okay, is there any discussion? Nope. So roll call vote. Barbara Carboni, aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
yeah.
Sonia, aye.
So minutes approved 4-0. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is Lieutenant Island Heron Point Road. And I'm just going to go back to the minutes from the last meeting just to confirm sort of what we were thinking of doing for the discussion we would be having at this meeting. At the last meeting, we agreed to make a formal request for a survey of Heron Point Road and to hire Outermost Survey, or at least to get a quote from Outermost Survey on what that, to get a quote from them on that project. And that quote would be submitted to the town administrator, to the select board with the survey and the request. So do we have any news on contacting Outermost?
So I got a quote. I can't remember the number off the
Yep.
top of my head, but
Mhm.
I sent it with the request to the town administrator, and he responded saying that the select board and the finance committee will discuss it in February.
Okay. That's good. So I think we just wait for their meeting and the outcome of that discussion. Does anyone have any other thoughts on this item? Anything else we'd like to do between now and when the select board or finance committee hears the request?
Has anyone had any further contact with the owners of the property, the rural aggers, that we know of?
Um,
What for?
Excuse me?
What for?
Well, to see what their current position is about making some sort of a deal.
Did we vote on doing that, or was it just a discussion, John?
Just a discussion.
No, okay.
If no one's
sure-
had any contact and we haven't heard anything, I'd just leave it be and we'll move on.
Okay, does anyone want to discuss that subject of approaching the property owners, or anyone else?
I guess at this point, we're kind of, I feel like we're waiting to hear back from what's happening with the town, right? Like, I mean, we gave the town the information that we had put together regarding the boathouse, and at this point, I think, what happens next will be, more of a negotiation with the town and the aggers, I would think, but
Okay.
Okay.
Let's leave it at that.
I'm sure we'll, eventually get an update, or we can always check in with them in the future.
Okay, and then thank you to Melissa again for getting that to the select board or to the town administrator. So the next item on the agenda also carried over from last meeting, from the December meeting, with the same title, Lieutenant Island Puddle. And there was discussion last time of contacting Mass Audubon again to work with them on, express this committee's concerns. But I don't remember, and I'm just looking in the minutes to see if somebody in particular was going to speak with Mass Audubon. Does anyone have any comments on this item?
I think we were waiting for a response back, but it looks like Nancy might have something to say.
Oh, yes. Nancy,
I don't have anything new on Audubon.
Okay.
But I believe that there is a placeholder
Mhm.
in the draft annual town meeting warrant with the Blue Heron, Heron Point Road ask in it. So that the draft town meeting warrant is in the select board packet from last night. So why don't I, while you guys are discussing it, I'm going to go and pull that packet up again and look, but I'm pretty sure it's in there just in terms of an update for you on that.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
And then I don't
thanks.
know anything new about Audubon.
Great, thank you, Nancy, appreciate it. Does anyone have any other comments or thoughts on this item about something to do between now and the next meeting? Anyone else to approach or strategies?
So I think Melissa and I had both talked about just kind of reestablishing contact with Melissa Lowe. I think I'm going to try that again. We discussed a site meeting, right, with Mark Borelli and
Yes.
Thomas Segia. Melissa and I had talked about, I think Melissa, did you ever have any success getting in contact with Mark Borelli?
I did, but he's very busy, so we
Yeah.
never landed on a date.
Right.
I think it's a big ask.
Right, right, absolutely. I did have a meeting with Thomas Sigia. So he wants to continue pursuing the topic through the Shellfish Advisory as well. He was actually looking to get in contact with Melissa just because they said they were wrapping up the year, in terms of the issues they were dealing with. So he reached out to Melissa. I don't think she responded to him either.
Okay.
That was as of the new year. I mean, I don't know if anything has changed since then.
Yeah.
So, he's trying to make contact with her as well. And I think at this point, one of us should send an email, try again. I'm willing to do that if
Okay.
that works for everyone.
Yes, that works for me. Thank you, Sonia.
I feel like we've been patient enough, right? It's been like,
Mhm.
we've sent out communications and it's been a while. And at the SAB meeting,
Mhm.
Melissa Lowe was saying, yes, she was kind of saying, oh yeah, we'll be in contact, we'll have a
Mhm.
meeting, that sort of thing. So they may have just been busy, I don't know, but I think at this point we're in
Sonia,
the years.
if you
Yep.
like, I will send the email. I may have infinitesimal more clout than you do. And I would copy Ian Ives and Tom as well.
Sure, if you're willing to do that, that's great.
Okay.
Okay, great. And I know there were a lot of things that I said, oh, right after the new year, I'll do that. And let's hope it's kind of the same thing, that people are really busy in December, but can catch up in New Year's. So thank you for following up on that. And John, you'll report back on what you're able to nudge them into a meeting.
Well, I may as well, if I send the email, I may as well copy everyone so you'll see for yourselves.
Could I suggest that we not all be copied for open meeting law purposes?
All right.
Yeah,
Okay, fair
so,
enough. Yep.
No, I appreciate it, but let's just be cautious. So, okay, so John will send emails and hope that there can be a meeting set up, before the next, for our next meeting, if possible. So Nancy has put in the chat, article number 29 from the draft warrant. Trying to remember how to share screen. Hang on. Or everyone can see it in the chat, right? Article 29. I'll read it out loud. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds the sum of $3,200 or any other sum for the purpose of paying costs associated with land survey services for Heron Point Road, or to do or act on anything thereon requested by the Rights of Public Access Committee. Majority vote is required for that article. So thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. This is great.
It is a very reasonable ask, I think. So, I see Steve is joining the meeting.
I just had a quick question
Please. Mhm.
through you to John. John, why don't you copy me on the email to Audubon, because I've been in touch with them too, and I think that would be kosher.
Okay, as well as Tom or instead of?
No, as well as.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Sorry, I'm late, guys.
It's okay. We went and started without you, Steve. So,
I expected you.
yeah, we've kind of been racing through the agenda. We were just talking about the article, the draft warrant article for requesting funds for the survey of Tennant Island, Heron Point Road. So
Mhm.
I don't think we need to do anything else on this item, but are there any other comments besides thanking Nancy for finding this and posting it for us?
I just have one more thing. I spoke to a friend who is a landscaper, and he was, I know because Audubon had mentioned before there was concerns for the cost of the repair. And he was saying that sometimes companies like that will donate materials to do a fill or a repair, something like that. And he was actually willing to go and look at the spot. He's pretty familiar with it and see about coming up with some materials or some kind of a quote for what the
Really?
cost would be. So that could just be a useful thing to have to refer to. And he might have some input as well regarding materials.
Sonia, do you want to speak with him further or have him come talk to us? What do you think would be a good idea?
I think he's just gonna go have a look and then we'll see, you know, where we want to go from there, if he wants to join in on a meeting or if he just wants to provide us with some information or.
Okay, good, thank you. That's looking ahead. Is there any other comment or thoughts on this item, agenda item? So it doesn't look like it. Moving on to the, oh.
Just a comments. When I send this email to Audubon, Sonia, should I mention that we have a possible source of materials?
I wonder if I should wait till I see what he says. Right?
Okay.
Because he's supposed to get back to me in the next couple of days. I wonder if we should find out
Well,
what he says, like what he recommends, or first of all, or
I'll hold off on the email, say until Monday, in case you hear something back.
yeah. In case I have
Interval. It would be a more intelligent email if we had some positive news.
Right. And I'm also going off of your suggestion, John, that, you know, maybe if cost is their concern, if there was some way to kind of like assist with that, maybe there'd be a better willingness to
Yeah.
to move forward on some kind of a repair. So.
Okay.
Yep. Melissa?
I also think that, you know, I feel like we've gathered some information from multiple sources, and it'd be great to have a meeting where we can discuss this with them. So emailing them in my mind would be to create a meeting where we can talk about these things instead of just emailing on paper. But anyway.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you. So if there's no further comment on Lieutenant Island, next item is research and catalog ways to the water. At the last meeting, we divvied up the different locations that each member volunteered to start working on for the catalog that we want to put together. And I will admit, I have been remiss. I have not worked on mine yet, but I promise to do so soon. So thank you for everyone agreeing to take on, you know, their locations. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments or reports on any work done?
I'm exactly in the same position. Is the list is in the minutes that we just approved?
It is. I can share screen. Hang on one sec. I did queue it up. Hang on. So one sec.
I think we've all had a lot going on at the end of the year.
I know. So can everyone see this?
Yes.
So here is our list of who's doing what.
Okay, I see what I've got.
Yep, same.
I saw what I have, but I'm also in the same boat. Haven't
Yep.
done it yet.
So
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. It is the end of the year. I don't think anyone had a whole lot of free time.
no, I know. So I guess my question is sort of what are the resources people will be using to start working on this? You know, what resources are available from the town or from any other organization that we can think of? Because I think the information is probably kind of spread out in different locations. So I just wondered what everyone's, you know, research methods might be. I was hoping for some suggestions.
Well, I think one of the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
One thing that I was thinking of is, again, I'm doing that sand pullout off of Quetzal Neck Road, and the path crosses two different people's property.
Mhm.
And if we're going to negotiate anything, that would have to be done in an executive session. And I have no idea about the two people involved.
Mhm.
So if any help you can give would help, or maybe we just postpone that.
What's the property, the part, do we know the parcel numbers or?
I don't have them on the top of my head.
Okay.
No. Um,
That's okay. I can look it up later.
One is occupied, several outbuildings, and the other is not occupied.
Right, so, okay. But so the catalog that we're hoping to put together will include, notation of ownership, rights of the public to enter, and use the property for what purposes. What are some other things that we hope to include, if any?
In that particular one,
Or
it's
just
inaccessible high tide, that would probably be
okay,
interesting information.
okay. Right, so just generally, bigger picture, what else we might hope to include in the catalog?
Melissa, didn't you put together, didn't it have kind of like a spreadsheet and it listed all of the items in the spreadsheet, like things to tick off? So I think that's all in that document.
Okay, got it. I can open that up, or we can just move, just keep moving.
Keep moving.
I think
Okay.
My
There-
original email also had several sources to look through.
Okay.
If you take a look, there's lots of research already done
Okay.
by other committees.
Okay, good, thank you. I should have looked at that before the meeting. So, but
And then
thank
the
you.
other big one is the Natural Resource Advisory Packet, right? That John, you sent us quite a while back, which actually has a lot of that information, right? Just regarding,
Well, if I may, I was sort of just running through in my head the sources,
Mhm.
which really starts out with the Echeverria report, which is online on the NRAB website. Then there was a video made from that. I've forgotten the name of the person that did the video, but went around and visited all those sites.
Irene Payne.
Irene Payne, sorry, yes. There's the packet I sent out. Nancy Shavetta sent out a list of all the shellfish sites. I see that my charge was the Herring River Estuary, so one of the first things I need to do is talk to people involved in the restoration project and find out how the sites up and down the Herring River will survive or not the restoration. I've also been in touch with the seashore directly about a couple of sites which I know will be available as canoe put-ins, kayak put-ins. And then there's the whole question of all the ponds, which are part of the Herring River as well. At least the Gull Pond system is. And there are, but on Great Pond, Long Pond, Duck Pond, there are also town access points for each of those.
Right, so that's, I think I'm working,
So there's almost too much information.
right, right. no,
So we have some overlap, I think, John. You were talking about ponds being part of the Herring River Estuary. And that's,
There we go.
I think, true. Not all of the ponds you mentioned. And probably that sand pullout that I was talking about is also part of the Herring River Estuary, although I don't know.
I see Nancy has her hand raised.
Hi, thank you. So one thing is that with the restoration of the Herring River, what we don't want to have happen, and I'm stating the obvious, right? Is that we lose access points. So I think it would be important, John, as you're liaising with them, there used to be as well access points, let's just say north of the dike and the area that is, landward. And I know that they are thinking of having like canoe and kayak put-ins, like you said, but in our eyes, that used to be productive shellfish habitat. When the dike broke in the 70s, it again became shellfish habitat that was worked. So as part of the planning, for, the engineering, we need to make sure that both north and south of the dike, we continue to maintain shell fishing access. And if it looks like we're going to lose it, that they build in shell fishing access as part of the plans, for the future, as part of their planning. That if they have to lose them in one spot, well, then they add them somewhere else. The important thing is that we don't lose access.
Nancy, I'm pretty sure, and we'll double check, that there is access at the new dike, just to the north of it. Both, and that would be both kayak and shellfish.
Okay.
What happens up at, one of the questions that I really can't answer at all is what happens up at high toss. And the two kayak accesses that I have talked with the seashore about specifically are all well north of high toss. So they're not, probably not shellfish pertinent. But I think, if we can bridge a site at the dike and a site at high toss, would that sound like good news to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for the reminder about the shellfish point.
Thanks.
Can you refresh my memory of, or my knowledge about where High Toss is? It's up the river from the dike?
Yes, and there's a causeway which is going to get flooded out. You can there are two ways to get at High Toss Road. One is to go up a fairly difficult road on the west side of the Herring River. Starts from the dike and goes north. The other way you can get there is a road that comes, you go by it when you're going to the town transfer station, the town dump. And
Okay.
you can work your way across, and that road also is in pretty bad shape because it's I think not going to survive. One of the things I thought I needed to do and will do is to talk to people who are much more directly involved with the Herring River project.
Uh-huh.
Martha Craig and John Portnoy particularly, and find out precisely what the plans are, and they would be public documents, and report back on that.
Yeah, they're pretty well along on the planning process, so we may be a little too late to make any major changes.
But these are not major changes. These are saying if the project allows for a certain opportunity, that's just a normal follow-up project.
Yeah.
Main thing is that there has to be the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. No, I know they've started some of the permitting for it. I know because in Truro I had to review it was the Chapter 91 license application. So I am interested in hearing, John, what you can find out about where there's opportunity.
Yep.
Thank you. Nancy, did you have any follow-up comments on this subject, on things to think about in maintaining access after this project is done, the Herring River project?
Sounds like she's not listening.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Nancy.
Sorry,
did
my
you-
phone just rang and I was
Got it.
telling somebody, what was the question?
Just if you had any follow-up comment on this topic of just learning where there can be input from us on public access points that will be impacted on by the Herring River Restoration Project, if you had any more comment on that.
The only other thing I would say is way back when I started, I think Carol Ridley had reached out to me about this.
Yeah.
And, I was just inundated with learning the job
Yeah.
and I never got back to her, but she might be a good person to check in on it because she
Okay.
was, actively trying to accommodate not only the shellfishing industry, but the recreational boating
Right.
community.
Okay. No, thank you. John, do you want to contact Carol? I
know her, sure.
Yeah, okay. I know her as well in case, for whatever reason you want to foist that off on me, I'm happy to call her as well.
You want to keep it in one place, probably.
Yep, okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you, Nancy, for bringing that up. I think it's an important thing for us to be aware of. So, do we have any other thoughts on waste to the water? We've sort of started moving into the next item on the agenda, which is, so any more comments on waste to the water? Nope. Okay, so consequences of sea level rise for coastal access in Wellfleet. And I think, John, you were going to talk about the discussion that occurred at the Natural Resources Advisory Board.
Let me go a little bit further back because
Sure.
NRAB hasn't met yet this year.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
In December, there was an interesting online presentation by someone who works for the Cape Cod Commission about the effect of sea level rise on roadways in Wellfleet. And the report talked about several places where the roadways are low, and with sea level rise, they would be at risk. This presentation was promoted and sponsored by a climate change committee in the town of Wellfleet. Dick Elkin is the chairman of it. And in the course of introducing the program, the climate change committee said that they were willing to appoint a liaison to various interested and concerned town committees. And I thought, I mean, there were several things that were not discussed in this presentation, but one of them is it never discussed any access issues to the harbor or to the ponds for that matter. It was all just about town roadways. Not the fault of the person who made the presentation. It was the way the request for information was set up. So I thought I should, if this committee agrees, pick up on this liaison idea and ask if the climate change committee would approve someone to be a liaison with us, and we could talk to the individual about how we might go about formatting and funding a report of our own about access issues. There would be two parts of this. One is for shell fishermen. Well, shell fishermen work at low tide, so at first glance, there's maybe not such a problem, but then you begin to ask yourself the question, well, what would happen if the tides got higher and higher at Powers Landing? Would there be an erosion process there like that needs to be dealt with? And for many just ordinary users, swimmers, kayakers, would the high tide close off some access points? So I think it's within our charter to look into this, and this is a way to listen and see if there's something that merits further action.
John, was that meeting, NARB meeting recorded, an RAB meeting
No,
from December?
when I suggested this agenda item to Barbara, I thought NRAB would have discussed. We have not discussed.
Oh, okay. But you said there was a
But
presentation.
the presentation itself took place in December.
Okay.
And as part of that presentation, the Climate Change Committee put out this offer for liaison.
Oh,
Okay.
So that's an open offer. I doubt at this point that NRAB would pick it up, but I think there's an opportunity for us. And
Okay.
that's what I'm
I
asking.
misunderstood you. I thought you'd said that that presentation was part of the NRAB meeting.
No.
Okay. Now, do you know if that presentation is recorded and out there?
Oh, I'd have to ask I'd have to ask Dick Elkin how we could get hold of it, because I mean it's a month old now. I thought I ought to wait for this meeting before contacting him and see if, you know, the question is, I could try to find out what the link is, but the main question is, are we interested in investigating that kind of report, and are we interested in liaison support?
I'd say yes and yes.
Mhm. So John, you mentioned climate change is also working on this as well, Climate Change Committee,
They only worked on town roads.
just on the
They
roads.
worked on
Okay,
upland roads.
okay, got it.
So they didn't talk at all about the question of how sea level rise or climate change would affect the ability of people to get to enter, to make use of and enjoy the town waters.
Okay, thanks. Melissa?
I attended that Low Roads meeting. I think that's a fabulous idea, John. I was wondering what kind of follow-up would happen. And I felt like I was a little bit hearing, I don't know. I just wanted to continue the conversation, and I felt like I didn't know what was next. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
In the meeting, I noticed that a lot of the participants were private homeowners who were looking to secure access to their homes. So I agree. I don't think there was enough talk about preserving access to the water for the general public.
Right.
And I did voice some concerns about shellfish access as well, given the possibility of erosion, like you said.
Right. Right.
Well, there's actually, Melissa, there's another thought I've had. I think I've mentioned this before at the Hidla properties. That is that the sea level rise continues. The ability to use the beach in front of the revetments is going to get at some point narrowed.
Mhm.
And that coming to an answer, whether it's good or bad, there is fairly simple. That's just a question of taking the predictions about sea level rise and seeing how the tidal levels change.
They did have a map for that as well, which was interesting. I don't know if you remember that. There
Yeah.
was a
Yeah,
interactive map you could use.
yeah, I attended part of it. So should I try to dig up the presentation to see if it's available publicly?
Well, I'm willing to, I mean, my action item would be to send an email to Elkin, and I put that request in there. So
Okay.
it simplifies the conversation.
Okay.
Let us all know if you get a link.
Yeah, I'll see if I can
Yeah,
find
I
that.
think
And then,
if it comes back with a, it comes back with a link, you'll get it.
okay.
Thank you.
So John, do we need to just agree, discuss further the idea of the liaison? Any further thoughts on that?
Well, I guess my reaction is you might say no, but otherwise I was going to
Right,
do it.
no. Oh, no, sorry. I didn't know. I know
Right.
this
I
committee
think-
likes
I
to
think it-
vote. Yeah, I
I've
agree.
had
Yes,
some
I agree.
discussions. I've had some discussions with Dick Elkin about this liaison idea of his, and this is also an opportunity for me to come back and say, here's a chance to
Right.
put that concept into work, into work.
Okay,
I
thank
also
you.
wanted to share with the committee a revelation I had at the meeting, which seems obvious in retrospect, but the meeting focused on public town roads, like John said, and a lot of the access to our waters is already private. So I don't really think that the people who are doing this, since their grant requirements required them to focus on only public roads, I feel like there's almost a void in what we do about private roads, because I don't know who's going to tackle that. There's obvious interest from a private homeowner, but to preserve public access in Wellfleet Harbor seems a little bit tricky. Anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Did the report include private roads or just public roads?
Just
Public
public.
road.
No, that
Because
cuts out half of them.
why would the state or the town spend money on a private road? It makes sense.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the public does have interests in private areas.
Certainly
and-
do.
If there is an opportunity, we would set the scope of the task. Melissa, is there something else that it bothered me that was not discussed in this report? Is they never talked about storm surge. This was all just about normal sea level rise. And if you remember, there was one, if you listen to the whole thing, there was one woman at the end who lived near Burton Baker Beach who kept saying she got flooded all the time, whereas this work didn't predict that. And I started to think, boy, he never mentioned wind and storm surge. And I think you have to take that into account.
Definitely.
And particularly if you're talking about harbor access, that's important.
Yeah, that was interesting to hear the comment from that homeowner as well, because their way of thinking was, oh, if you just close off that opening to the water, then that would prevent that storm surge from coming in and inundating the road. And then she said something along the lines of, oh, that would upset the shell fishermen. But I suppose issues like that could come up in the future, right? Where someone's trying to protect private property and therefore they might want to
Put a levy on.
access, yeah. So
Yeah, and I think I would add too that storm surge, we're seeing at Duck Harbor, we're seeing this happen, and I think this isn't going to be a gradual process. This is going to be something that's going to happen very quickly. So it seems sooner than we really think.
Right.
We have about 10 years according to the NOAA data. So more or less about 2030, things are going to start looking a lot worse quickly.
Right. So, okay, yes to pursuing liaison, and John will cover that.
Liaison and link.
And link, yep. And any further discussion on this interesting subject of what about private roadways and, public access to roadways that'll be affected? Nancy, did you have any perspective or comments on that question?
I mean, I think it's something we do absolutely need to be aware of and be proactive. For example, yesterday, it's called the Conservation Resource District Commission, something like that, or National Conservation District. So this is federal money that's available to municipalities to make sure that road runoff isn't going to be polluting our waterways, right? So we went around town and identified some areas such as Powers Landing, where there can be quite a bit of runoff as the tide comes in and out. But we also talked about, during storm surges and king tides and stuff. But we also talked about places like Mid Cape and the Yacht Club, and those are both privately owned, but their landings or their proximity to the water, contaminants or road runoff happens during high tides and heavy rains goes from their property into the bay. So, you know, one of the things that we identified to look at is how could we get, for example, a sort of easement to do some remediation work, which is available through these federal funds. And then the town puts in a 25% match. So I think this is important to keep on the radar. And then I had one other thing. You guys were talking about the everybody tuning into the, hold on one second. Sorry, I got too many things running around in my head.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy.
It'll come back to me.
Okay.
That kind of a public-private partnership, if you will, I think is worth keeping an eye on. And then I had something that I was going to say just in relation to the conversation. So just give me a minute to think and that'll come back to me.
Sure.
I remember it was Shellfish Advisory Board.
Yep.
Also identified as one of the recommendations to the select board for what to do with the How Do You Like Them Apples parcel, that the town needs to be mindful of sea level rise and climate change. And as they are, that actual actions monitoring needs to happen so that we're not caught off guard, especially as regards shellfishing access. So I thought that was, you know, interesting that they identified that. And so I think there might be some work that you guys could do collaboratively with the Shellfish Advisory Board just to identify places that might need attention in terms of priorities.
Specifically on the Hidelta property, Nancy?
No, I think all over town.
All over?
I,
Oh, okay.
yeah, because they identified it as part of the, you know, the trust property out there, but you know, just the town as a whole is looking at this in many different facets. So, you know, here I am working with the DPW and the conservation agent on the federal funds, and then Shellfish Advisory is talking about it, climate change. Like there needs to be maybe some sort of I like the idea of this liaison that John said they're offering, because I think it's going to be important that there be a clearinghouse that kind of works on this. But I'm just saying you might have some, you might be able to do some collaborative work with Shellfish Advisory to prioritize, because it's always going to be like, okay, what do you tackle first?
Right. Has there ever been any thought given to you know, sea level rise task force, you know, or ad hoc committee just with representatives of all these different, you know, committees that are looking at the same issue, just to try to coordinate the efforts? So I guess that's like one step beyond a liaison is a group.
I haven't heard of anything, but
Okay.
I actually think that's exactly what we're getting at here, is that
Okay.
there needs to be, you know, a clearinghouse entity or person that's kind of making sure that all these different committees are talking to each other and sharing information. The work that you guys are doing on the ways to the water could certainly help inform, you know, a list of landings, and then the town can prioritize them.
Right. Just going back to something you mentioned earlier, this for the federal funds available, is the town actively pursuing those funds?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. I think what we're doing for fiscal year 22, which for the federal government ends in September 30th, we've done so many different reorganizations. I believe Powers Landing is one of the ones that's going to be prioritized because it's an easy fix. And then, Lieutenant Island Road, which the town is already working on, especially because there's a number of catch basins that go. So this conservation district money is to protect shellfishing, fish passage, and salt marsh habitat. So there are catch basins that go directly into the estuaries along Lieutenant Island Road. And so this project that the town is undertaking will be supplemented with federal funds to help us do something so that that as we're repaving that road, we actually have engineering that's going to create catch basins with leaching fields, et cetera, so that even if we get an inch of rain all at once, this is not going to overflow into our shellfish habitat.
Got it. Okay, is there anything you suggest that this committee, could do to support that? Or is it all in good shape?
I think it's in great shape. I mean, the
Okay.
DPW
Good.
and the conservation agent are really on top of it.
Great, that's
And
great
then
to
I
hear.
always chime in with my 2 cents.
Yes, good. No, thank you. That's great to hear. Anyone, thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I had if through you, please, a question for Nancy. One of the places in the harbor that has occurred to me might be at risk with sea level rise is at Egg Island. And is there anyone's, is the issue at Egg Island under being thought about by any committee or organization? It's a little different than access. I mean, we know how to access it. The question is it still going to be there?
I mean, that's a good point. And right now, there's plenty of people who access it by foot. And so, they might have to go by boat. And some of the deeper water grants, might be constrained in what they're able to do out there over time. If it really is going to be, a lot more water there. But I don't really know any sort of, remediation for access, I guess, because it's kind of land-based, makes you think there's some sort of hope. Like we could create something, engineer something that would allow us continued access. For Egg Island, I would imagine it's going to be more heavily boat necessary. And most of it is accessed by boat right now, honestly.
Right.
So
I was just, it's an issue that kind of falls in a gap. It's not quite clear that it's a right of public access committee issue or a shellfish advisory board issue. But the worry I had, I don't know if it comes true or not, is that if sea level rise overtakes Egg Island, you've got some people out of work. And we ought to be thinking of alternatives. But I don't have the facts to know if it's a real problem. I'm just saying there's an interesting question there. And you could think of other places in the harbor where there's going to be a question like that too.
agreed.
So, thank you, Nancy. So does anyone have any further comments on this topic, sea level rise, and what we would like our committee to be working on and working with whom? Okay, so that's really our last agenda item, other than to pick the next meeting date and topics, and decide who will chair the next meeting. So,
I think it's about my turn.
oh, is it
Okay,
okay to chair? Okay,
I'll try
right.
not to be late.
so Steve will chair. Thank you. And then what do we do about minutes? Does the person who chairs the meeting prepare the minutes? Is that how it
No.
works? No?
No,
Oh,
I've been secretary, so I've just been taking care of
Oh.
minutes and
okay.
various
great.
other things.
Oh, okay. So Sonia will do the minutes for today. Steve will chair the next meeting. Do we want to try to pick a date today, or do it, by email?
I would prefer it by email.
Okay.
Please.
Sure, let's do that. I'll send out an email for the next meeting date, and then
You could just keep me posted on when that is.
yes, we will,
Thanks.
Nancy. Thank you. I will. I'll copy you on that. And just ideas for topics for the next meeting. I think there's some carryovers from this meeting, but the main one will be, or one of the main ones will be just getting started on how people are doing, getting started on ways to the water. Does anyone have any other topics they might want to put on the agenda for next month or the next meeting? Any ideas? So. Okay, so I will send out this a scheduling email, and I think we can have a motion to adjourn.
The only thing I would say about the next meeting is this item, the item which is number 7 on the current meeting, research and catalog waste of water.
Yep.
We ought to, in putting together the agenda for the next meeting, Steve, we ought to dig down a little bit on that and have some subheadings. Because I think we uncovered, I mean, we have this list of who's doing what at various places. Maybe we ought to go through that list explicitly. Kind of encourages people to actually do something.
I mean, explicitly meaning specify the landings.
Well, there was a list of about seven different parts of the harbor that we were going to talk about the issues at each of those places. There we are. For example, I'm on the Herring River, and different people are on different parts of the.
I think it's better to refer to the spreadsheet that Melissa had, because that actually lists everything. So even though what we put together in last meeting isn't super specific, getting a better idea of what those locations are, you can get from that spreadsheet. So for example, like what I said I would take on, right? If you go down here to Lieutenant Island, right?
Okay.
So I said I'd do Lieutenant Island. I think I said on that list to Blackfish. So that would incorporate Lieutenant Island, say like Old Wharf.
I agree. This is a better idea. So the point is it focuses us on something more specific.
Right, but do you see how that's how we came up with those
Yep.
titles there? So, there was like the ocean, there was the bay, ponds, things like that. So there is a list. It's just on that sheet. But obviously there's probably going to be some that, get spread a little differently. I mean, maybe like Drummers Cove, I think, someone might end up taking that. I don't think anyone claimed that, but there is a start.
It's a great
What?
start.
Yeah, so I think I said like Lieutenant to Blackfish Creek, and that's a lot. So I think I mentioned in the last meeting, I'll, see what I can get to, and then we'll see where everyone else stands, right, with different spots. And we may have to kind of like redistribute again, but
Okay.
there is something basically.
You
No,
guys,
this is,
sorry.
go ahead.
If you guys want, I could put it in a Google Drive. I don't really know if you guys want to do that, but it might encourage us to fill it in more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Okay, so Steve, you'll do an agenda and I'll send out a scheduling email. And I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
I move.
I
we
moved
adjourn.
We're adjourned. What's the one?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Good
No.
meeting, Barbara. Thank you.
Okay, sure. No, I'm
Yeah.
happy to do my part. So roll call vote, Barbara Carboni, aye.
John Real, aye.
Steve,
Sonia,
aye.
aye.
Melissa, I.
Great. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Nancy, as always, for joining us, giving us your thoughts and perspectives on this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for your hard work. I mean, this is like a huge body of work. And it's incredible that you guys are dedicating the time to take it on, not only just for shellfishing, but, all the rest too. So thank you very much.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Aye.
Bye now.